Hey everybody, Professor Snart checking in here as we continue with our course into week 2, which is like approaching midterm almost because of the pace that we move at. But we have passed the due date then for units 1 and 2, which was, just sort of an introductory thing. And even unit 2 was really just kind of getting your feet wet in terms of our textbook and the layout of the course and, using the discussion board and just that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, units 3 and then 4 will be getting us much deeper into the content and closer to, or sort of building up towards, the major writing assignments, the essays that we're doing for the class. So unit number 3 is one of those units that is, in this case, it's due Monday, June, what's that date, 3rd, it would be. And there's really not a lot of work for the unit. The writing assignment is a fairly brief paragraph, so it's very limited. But the content of this unit is, I'm not sure you could even say this exactly, but if there's like one unit that is the cornerstone content-wise, it's this one. And so we focus on the relationship between the general and the specific, or how you manage the general and specific within, in this case, just a paragraph, but of course we're thinking in terms of paragraphs within an overall essay. And so there's this nice little visual diagram, the stick figure that I've got here, that's very easy to remember and to kind of visualize, in an abstract way. And it does a really nice job of representing how we move from relatively more general to specific statements. There's lots of detail, and then we conclude by getting a little more general again in terms of an overall essay, but also in terms of an individual body paragraph. So you can think of this same diagram in terms of both the big essay, but also the individual paragraph, body paragraph, since intro and conclusion paragraphs work a little bit differently. So the unit itself hopefully makes all of this relatively clear, and it's not a complex idea, or the content is not like difficult here. And so I guess that's why I don't want you to think that because it seems very simplistic, it's not important, or it's not something that you really need to think about applying in terms of the writing that you're doing. Really, on the contrary, it's simplistic so that it's easy to grasp and apply in every writing situation that we are faced with in this course. So really spend time with this unit, and in fact you may want to come back to it when we do get into other longer writing assignments like our first essay. So unit 3, kind of bookmark this one in your mind if you want, as one of the key, or maybe the key content unit that we cover. If there's a close second for important content, it's probably anything to do with secondary sources or quotation and sort of the MLA portion of our class, whether it's works cited or quoting correctly within the text of your essay or paragraph or whatever it happens to be that you're writing. So again, hopefully things are laid out fairly clearly here. But what we're looking for is really the distinction that kind of moves your writing from competent, kind of C level, like you get the basics, towards that A level where you really have sophistication in your writing. And that ultimately is a matter, again, there could be like lots going on stylistically, but fundamentally it's often a matter of how well the writer moves from general kind of idea or topic sentence level things, how well that's elaborated and then supported with detail, so you move from the general to the specific, and then of course transitioning to the next idea, getting a little bit more general. And remember, these are all relative things. So when we talk about beginning an essay, generally we don't talk about society, history, all things everywhere. Usually a general statement would be the naming of, something that's already focused on a particular author and work in a very general kind of theme, or maybe like a couple of summary statements. So don't think that general is like super general. It really isn't. But notice that everything within the body of an essay, or within the kind of the middle of a body paragraph, is focused detail, quotation from the text, and explanation or elaboration of that fit within that kind of umbrella or the structure that we've begun with in terms of our general like thesis or topic statements. So it all kind of works together. And like I say, it's really simple to look at, and then it's really the application of that that's the job that you have. in terms of doing this writing stuff and then showing me that, yeah, you get the stick figure idea, and now you can apply it in the writing situation. In Unit 3, we also get into MLA citation a little bit, which, like I said, is probably a close second in terms of just the most important stuff that we cover. As I have mentioned a number of times in the course, and then we'll reiterate throughout in these kind of video things, if by the end of our course you're not able to produce a works cited that's correct and cite material correctly in the text of your essay, it's such a simple thing to do, but it's so fundamental to English 1102, which is sometimes called the research class. Really, it affects your grade by the end of it and all the way through, but if you can't do that stuff correctly, you're unlikely to pass English 1102, which is kind of it sounds sort of over dramatic a little bit, but the glass half full version of that is that really it's simple to do, and there's tons of examples that you can follow in the course itself. So it's not like you just have to magically figure it out on your own. There's lots of models and examples to follow, and really it's not. There's nothing sort of subjective or abstract to figure out. You really are just plugging the pieces into the right spot and formatting things correctly. So it's very objective. In fact, it's probably one of the most, if not the most, objective part of the whole writing enterprise. It's either right or wrong. There's no kind of wiggle room in there, or very little for the most part. Okay, so that's Unit 3. Fairly simple to look at and to complete, but really, really crucial in terms of content that we cover in the class. Our next unit then gets us into reading our first short story and also talking a little further about, content stuff. We are ultimately looking at a short story called Flight Patterns from the book by Sherman Alexie. It's kind of an interesting story. It's hard to summarize in really simple terms, and it's not complicated, so it's not like a puzzle you've got to figure out or something. I think it's a pretty accessible, first reading for us. In addition, we're looking at a sample student essay, really useful to look at an example of the kind of essay that you're ultimately going to be producing in this class, both for things that work, but maybe for things that you would improve if you had the opportunity to. Some stuff on thesis statements and the writing process. Again, it's fairly straightforward material. You just have to take the time to read through it carefully, to look at it carefully, and then of course, like I said before, because you're never really tested on this directly in any kind of exam format exactly, you really need to think about how can you apply this information as the course content to the essay writing that you'll ultimately be doing. So that's the assessment device, that's the exam that you really do. So of course what I look for in those isn't some magical formula, like it's not really mysterious, and certainly nowhere near as mysterious as people often think English kind of is. This is the stuff that I'm looking for in your essays, so there's no secret that I'm keeping from you. That wouldn't be fair at all. Okay, so again, you've probably noticed already, based on our first week, how quickly we move. The due dates really turn around, fast, and this week is no exception. So we have 3 units that we'll be through by the end of the week, Friday, June 7th. So again, really stay on top of things. And of course, if you have questions, by all means be in touch. And I'll talk to everybody soon.